Good evening, council, staff, and members of the public. May I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? I have Councillors Garwood and Alexander that the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of November 15th, 2023 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. Please join me if you're able to for the national anthem. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, through patriot love, in all hearts command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you. And I apologize. Typically, we don't have moments of observation or prayer, but at this time, I would ask that we do take a moment to reflect on the life of Jack Conton, the Deputy Mayor of the town of Midland. Councillor Cabral and I were just in the process of getting to know Deputy Conton. He was a spectacular man, a compassionate, community-oriented person. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? And seeing none, as we have no deputations or presentations, we will move on to question period. And at this time, I will turn to Clerk Ainsworth. Have we had any submissions received?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. There have been 3 submissions received prior to the meeting. The first one from Sam Catalano of 424 Penetanguishene Road, and they write, please do something to encourage building and development in this part of Springwater, like other mayors are doing, removing fees and other hurdles. This is the gateway of Springwater with amazing walk score and drive score to the RVH Hospital, Georgian College, and so much more. Otherwise, let Barrie take the lands and have it developed. There is a huge demand for development in this area and nobody is doing anything. Example, make my golf course the first to have affordable housing in a golf course community with lots of recreation. I have 8 acres and nothing but field on it. Why do all golf course communities need to be for the wealthy? Please do something that would benefit so many for the city of Barrie or expand the new gateway of Springwater here and Highway 411 merge. There is land wasted and doing nothing really close to all amenities. Thank you very much.
And our second submission?
The second submission is from Mary Lynn Atkinson of 49 Willow Landing. And they write, I am concerned that Midhurst will become the next Painswick. What is council doing to protect the boundaries of Springwater from a land grab by the city of Barrie?
And our final submission this evening.
The final submission is on behalf of the Springwater Sports Heritage Board. An updated submission was received this afternoon, different than the one that I had sent to council previously. And it states, referring to the Township of Springwater 20-year community-based strategic plan, it states the council will continue to work with the Springwater and Sports Heritage Board to help them market the existing asset that they have developed and to partner with the board to determine the location, example, the community hub, and help establish a bricks and mortar location where visitors can view the recognition of the recipients. From this document, we know that council is supportive of Springwater, sports heritage, and its efforts to establish a locale. Our question is simple. When and how does Springwater Sports Heritage become involved in this planning process? We are both willing and ready. What are the next steps?
Thank you for that. And at this time, are there any members of the public who wish to ask a question of council? Mr. Spring, please join us. Your name and address, please.
John Spring, 38 County Road 92, Elmville, Ontario. I read with great interest on Barrie today that Mayor Nuttall has had closed door discussions with neighboring municipalities about amalgamation of lands. These discussions will be bad for any municipality that exists beside the city of Barrie. I need only account the epic battle that took place between Barrie and Vespra Township. For those of you that are old enough to remember, Barrie used nothing but heavy-handed tactics to secure the land it wanted from Vespra. It crippled the township, even with a cash infusion from the provincial government. Discussions must be terminated immediately to send a strong message to Barrie. We are not interested in any shape or form of amalgamation talks. I must ask the mayor, the deputy mayor, and councillors to ask themselves this one question: what's in it for Springwater Township? The answer is absolutely nothing. Mayor Nuttall would beg to differ with this answer. Of course he will, as he knows that Barrie will gain immensely from an amalgamation, and municipalities such as Springwater will lose immensely. Terminate these discussions now and send a message to Barrie that we are not up for grabs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Are there any further questions or comments about the agenda this evening? In light of everyone's time, we will be pulling item 9.6 up after our community hub conversations. We will be moving it up in the agenda this evening. Seeing no more questions from the audience, may I have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of council, please? I have Councillors Fisher and Garwood, that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. 1, our minutes of our regular meeting of council of November 1st, 2023. 2, the minutes of the regular meeting of council closed session of November 1st, 2023. 3, minutes of the special meeting of council of November 7th, 2023. And 4, the minutes of the special meeting of council closed session of November 7th, 2023. Council, are there any questions or comments on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes of our committees and boards and organizations, please? I have Councillors Moore and Deputy Cabral, that the minutes of the boards, committees, and other organizations listed herein be received for information. 1, the minutes of the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting of October 19th, 2023, and the draft minutes of the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority Board of Directors meetings of October 27th, 2023. Are there any questions or comments on these minutes? And seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. At this time, I will ask for a mover and seconder. We are going to have our, are they available? Our consultants are available for the presentation on the Community Master Plan and Hub. Mover and seconder, Councillor Alexander and Councillor Moore. And at this time, I will turn to Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Yes, so my name is Shane Morgan. It's good to see you again, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council, and for everyone in the public. So I'm joined here by Anna Levitska, who's the urban designer in our office, who's been working on this with us. So just a quick recap. Obviously, we presented this originally to you on May 10th of this year. So we got very clear and strong feedback from council to revise the design and kind of focus on the consolidation of various building components and really focusing on the potential cost outlays of some of the decisions made therein, and to revise some of the programming. So we've been working with Jeff Schmidt, CAO, and various members of staff to refine this plan, and that is our intention to present to you today. So I'm just going to kind of frame that outline, and then the expectation here is to garner subsequent feedback from council and any of the members of the public who see fit, and to really refine that. And then this package does not contain the detailed graphics and things that will form part of the final master plan and the report. This is an interim check-in point to just understand that the programming and the costing is in line with council's expectations. So that is really where we wanted to focus on today, and then get further discussion going on those topics. So saying that, I would pass over to my colleague Anna, who can work through the timeline and the building changes that we are presenting, and then I will speak to the costing changes at the end of the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Nice to see everyone again. So here's just a rough outline, again, of kind of the topics that we'll be covering today. So kind of the revised site design, and then focusing in a bit more on the actual two phases, which we have broken up the building design into, and then, as Shane mentioned, kind of the cost breakdown. So following kind of those discussions that we mentioned we had with Jeff and Brianna earlier last month, this kind of high-level schematic just shows the site design in its entirety and kind of the main changes that were made. So you can kind of see the building outline, or the proposed building outline, in black, the community hub phase 1. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the screen. And that's the main community center building with the gym, aquatics, library, and supplementary uses, as well as phase 2, which has the arenas. And then further west, we have kind of the consolidated outdoor amenities to support the community uses. So some of the major feedback that we received was to consolidate kind of the 3 buildings that we had prior into one, and locate it closer to Bayfield and Snow Valley. By doing so, we kind of open up the visibility from the street, as well as kind of open up the rest of the site for other uses. You can kind of see the primary vehicle circulation is the east-west connection to Snow Valley, and this is kind of proposed as part of the fire station, the parking area. So locating our building on the north of that just kind of consolidates vehicle access to one point, which will just streamline site design. The secondary circulation pictured on this diagram is intended just to be pedestrian circulation, so providing improved permeability from Bayfield as well as Snow Valley. And you can kind of see that we've maintained that gateway condition at the northeast, recognizing that it's an opportunity for enhanced kind of public realm enhancements and landscaping. Something notable to, I guess, that we considered in this round of the site design was just to kind of maintain that connection to nature and preserve as much as we could for the tree coverage. Another feature is that by moving the community hub to the northeast of the site, we're able to open up a potential area for future development should the township want to explore that. So moving on, this is kind of the high level, I guess, spatial programming of phase 1, which is, like I mentioned before, the main kind of community uses, community center with all the kind of major uses. So the 3 kind of main considerations that we spoke about to include for this round that were kind of like non-negotiables for the community were gym, aquatics, and library. So we made sure to kind of center those or ground those in our building design. You can kind of see the dashed outline is a conceptual building envelope that we're considering, and locating the gym on the northeast, and then aquatics on the southeast, and then the library to the south. For this building design, we tried to keep kind of a central east-west circulation, which is going to be kind of the primary corridor where all the internal uses will kind of face onto. And then there'll be subsequent north-south connections to provide access to Bayfield, as well as the parking area and fire station to the south. So you can also see that that central connection will eventually provide access to the phase 2 arenas during detailed design. Other kind of supplementary uses that were considered in this design was change rooms for obvious reasons for the aquatics, storage areas, the front desk, offices, and studios and multi-purpose rooms. Something that was considered was kind of building off of that central road, locating storage and kind of loading access to the south just to provide that easy kind of maneuvering from the road. And then providing the gym and studio uses along the north will open up and provide kind of that transparency onto the street. So the next section, we'll just kind of dive into a bit more of the kind of core uses, so the aquatics, gym, and library. We just wanted to provide some general areas that we're looking at. There's several precedent images and community centers that we looked at for sizing. So those will also be shown, but just to note that these are just precedent images, and renders will come, like Shane mentioned, in detailed design stages. So for aquatics, I know that a previous concern was kind of integrating a therapeutic pool and a lane swim. So the revised design ensures that, looking at an area around 1,000 to 1,500 square meters, and this will be able to accommodate, a therapeutic pool as shown in some of these images, as well as a 4 to 6 lane, 25-meter lap pool. And these are just some examples that we kind of looked at with similar aquatics, some community centers in Markham, Malton, and Woolwich. Next being, so the gymnasium. Again, this one's located on the northeast corner of the site, and it's the size ranging that we're considering is between 1,500 and 2,000 square meters. This will allow us to accommodate one full-size basketball court. The intention is, like with many community centers, just to provide that multi-purpose court, which will allow for, if you want to have lines painted to accommodate pickleball, badminton, you'll have like flexible sport uses. By locating the building on the northeast, you'll kind of get to, it's framed by the building edge, so you can have, windows and have treatment and visibility from the outside, as well as having it, so window treatments to provide visibility from the internal corridor. So some of the examples that we looked at, I know that council's previously mentioned the Innisfil Recreational Complex as kind of a precedent that they were interested in, so we made sure to look into that one. The McBain Community Center, pictured number 2, again, just has that example of the window treatment to corridor condition, as well as some other examples from Mississauga and Evanstown. For the library, we're looking at a 2-story library. So the bubble diagram that I've been showing has just been kind of the ground floor. There's a secondary mezzanine, which will have kind of supplementary uses. So the second floor of the library, as well as a fitness center, and then some additional office space. But for the library, we're looking at between 550 to 750 square meters, and it will be fairly compact in its design, and it will ensure that it can still accommodate kind of study areas and flexible studio spaces. So you can kind of see in these examples, just the first one is the David Bradley VMC Library in Vaughan, which is compact design. So the next phase is just phase 2. So this is kind of providing an overview for the arenas, which will be, again, located west of the community center. The intention is to have 2 full NHL size rinks. So that's 200 feet by 85 feet. The phase 2A is the first rink. So it'll be located on the south. And then phase 2B will be located on the north. And the intention is just to have a shared change room between both rinks and then spectator seating. So one of the comments that we received was that the first rink should have, it's going to be more used by the community as a primary rink. So the spectator seating should range between 100 and 150 people. And then the second rink should have a little bit less seating for 50. So the design will kind of mimic this layout, as you can see. So the Great Plains Recreational Facility, where it has the change rooms right outside the arena, that's kind of the ground floor condition. And then the second floor will be able to accommodate the spectator seating, which you can kind of see as an example in 1 and number 3. And we found that this Mold Master Sportsplex community center in Halton Hills had very similar kind of considerations as to what the township is looking for. So we looked at it closely as a precedent example for costing. But yeah, that's basically an overview of the main considerations, and then Shane will kind of break down the costing for phase 1.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. So based on those revised changes, the essential total floor area has shrunk by approximately 20% for the similar level of facilities. So we're obviously very cognizant of the fact that council directed us to look at those numbers again to try and understand and respect the budget constraints therein. So the approximately 20% of those consolidated areas with the arena separated out from that number. So we've looked at 2 approaches, so kind of a minimum range and a maximum range. So based on the direction from staff and working with them, we used the King Township Recreation Center at a built $740 per square foot as the lower end of the range, and then the Whitby Sports Complex as a similar facility for $780 per square foot. So those were recent examples that we were provided data from, and then we looked at those as the kind of a minimum and maximum range. So taking those, we extrapolate the average cost. So this approach does not take out individual uses and assign a per square footage basis. They are facility-wide costs. So we've used that approach, and the facilities are a similar mix of uses. So we feel that that is an appropriate approach. So they are slightly larger, and then you obviously see their budgets are comparably higher. So using that basis, we have a smaller square foot for the phase one of the design. So then using that, we have a budget cost that we got to just over $64 million. And then the resulting soft costs and contingency fees were given to us in consultation with staff. So those numbers are yet to be tested, but they are the general assumptions from the budget office in the township. So the building cost is approximately 64.6 million, with consultant fees of 4 million, contingency fees of 7 million, various outdoor features and amenities of 3 million, and then the splash pad at an additional 1 million, for a total project cost of just under 80 million. So that was our goal for this round, to really synthesize and kind of bring that building down, make it more compact, make it more efficient, and understand that that is the area that we wanted to kind of push to. So the supplemental costs, obviously, the consultants, that will go towards architects and engineers in the future for a subsequent design phase, and to take the work that we have done with the resource analysis and the building locations, everything like that, and the whole strategy, and then fine tuning that into an actual finalized building design to accompany the fire hall in this quadrant of the township to really invigorate it. So yeah, saying that, oh, sorry, just to go back, we also did use the same approach for the arenas. So if you just bear with me. So the phase 2A, which is the larger of the two arenas with the enhanced spectator seating, the range that we got from that area is between 22 and 23 million building costs. That would be our anticipated cost using those numbers. And then the phase 2B would be lower at the 15 to 16 million range. Just obviously the phase 2B would get some efficiency from some of the services built for the larger arena already, but then obviously just having smaller changing and spectator needs would be lower in cost also. So the costing on the screen now speaks strictly to the phase one. We've done a more detailed analysis on that. Understanding the phase 2A and 2B of the different arenas would come at a future date. So this is where we're focusing our energy as of now. So saying all of that, the hope that we have here is to receive direction from from council effectively. We would hope to ascertain if we are on the right path, and if there's any minor tweaks that we can accommodate before preparing the more fulsome and complex package that will accompany the final report and the final updated design. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, at this time, are there any, obviously there's questions, but I'll start with Councillor Fisher.
Well, I guess I'll start by saying I a little bit disappointed it took this long. I think that maybe some others share this on council. We're looking at although I enjoyed the presentation, we're looking at 7 months to arrive at this point. And I will say this, I had hoped we'd be further along, where we were actually looking at what the exterior looked like, the building materials. We could start to look at square footage and where walls would be. So, that being said, that is, I hope that going forward, we move things quickly along. 2 points I'd like to make. The 2-story library, I noticed it's between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet, depending on what we do. I just wonder, given that in Elmvale, we do have issues with it being a multi-story and accessibility seems to be a constant discussion, if we wouldn't make the library a single story. Also, the trees on Bayfield Street, right now there's a strip of trees down there. I think they're very nice. I'm not saying keep them all, but certainly that treed buffer, I think it would look, I just noticed that they seem to be out of the plan. So that's one thing I'd like to see stay. Thank you.
Comment for that, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So through you to Councillor Fisher. Yeah, so I do acknowledge the timeline, and that was, there was a lot of back and forth with us and staff on various kind of points, and there's a lot of research and discussions with Jeff Schmidt as well to finalize that kind of key direction. So I acknowledge that it was not an overly quick return to council. We were hoping to get here sooner. I appreciate that. Everyone is very, very eager to get this project moving forward. In response to your comment about the library, I can acknowledge that 2 levels yet do have accessibility concerns. There is going to be a central feature that will allow movement up and down. There's an elevator core and a central stairway to allow for that, but we can definitely look at incorporating it over 1 level if that is the preference. And a final comment in terms of clarification. So our scope goes up until the kind of final master plan design. A separate scope will have to be released for architects to get into the very, very detailed elements of materials. We are going to be providing the general design that we have here with some internal areas and layouts and wall placement and things of that nature, but the final detailed design will be coming in a separate package from a different consultant, a different process.
I have a follow-on from Councillor Fisher.
Just, if I could, what would be the timeline in moving on to that phase?
Through Mayor Coughlin to Councillor Fisher. That would be entirely dependent on the RFP that would be released by staff and through council endorsement. So it can be a quick enough process, but that is something that is outside of our control.
Thank you. And Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Not a question for the consultant, more of a discussion or conversation or overview. In doing some research before tonight's presentation, I did speak with our finance department to determine that currently we've spent a little north of $91,000 on consulting fees so far to get here. I completely respect the work that's been done here, and by no means am I trying to diminish that. I think this presentation is far better than the previous one. Where my concern lies is the clear and strong feedback that I believe those were the words that were utilized before that this council provided back in May or April, whenever it was that we met last. I see us at the same dollar amount. I don't see us any less expensive. I remember sitting across here from Councillor Fisher and us both shaking our head in agreement around the total cost of this project. Again, I look at the $80 million associated, and from what I heard there around the phase 2 pieces around those pads or pad, whatever it ends up being, between somewhere about 35 and 38 million on top of an $80 million project, and that's today. That's not 10 years from now, and we know what's happening with costs. Look at the fire stations. So again, my main concern here is where we're at with the dollar, and how this is going to fall on our taxpayers' shoulders, and B, how long is this entire project going to last? So again, not a question. I'm not looking for direction at this sense, but just more of concern.
I had Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So I concur with Councillor Garwood in that the cost is very, very high, higher than kind of anticipated, and is only going to go up even with this exact project. So that is worrisome. I also Councillor Fisher brought up the 2-floor library. Again, I have no problem with the size of the library. I don't understand. We have a ton of real estate in that area. Why we would choose to go up and have to put an elevator in, which is costly, and then more accessible issues is just adding issues. I feel like we could just do it on 1 floor and probably save ourselves a fair amount of money at the outset and in maintenance wise in the future. I do have a question regarding if you could please explain the uses for the multi-purpose room and the studio. What exactly are we envisioning? Because they're both quite large spaces.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coughlin, to you, Councillor Alexander. So in terms of the elevator, just to respond to that at the start. So the spectator seating for both the aquatics and for the arenas is proposed to obviously be accessed, on the upper level. So there would need to be access provided to those regardless. By virtue of the spectator seating, while some of it may come down closer to the ringside, there will be areas that accessed above the changing rooms. So that was the intention there. So the access to the mezzanine or an upper level will generally be proposed on either way at the current time. But if that is something that council directs us to change, we can definitely look at that. The multi-purpose room and the is as described, it can really fulfill a variety of needs, and the intention is to be a space within the facility that is less programmed. So various community groups, user groups can come in and use it for a variety of purposes. There might be some, children's playtime. There might be some, other activities that are, not accounted for in the more structured, rooms. And then the studio is more of a kind of a class. Maybe it's, there's a, yoga classes, these types of activities that kind of supplement the main gymnasium.
Follow on, Councillor Alexander.
Okay, and not that I disagree with the studio or the multi-purpose room. I'm questioning the size because looking at this, they seem to be the same size as the gym, and that seems like to be quite a large room for a child's birthday party or a yoga class. So just in terms of trying to be, maybe save some money here and there, I think we could make those rooms quite a bit smaller and still get the same use of the space.
I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Moore and then back to Deputy Cabral.
Through the chair to Mr. Morgan, thank you. I doubt if any of us here in council have ever built a library. And speaking to the library board, I don't think we have any issues at all about having a two-story library. My understanding, what I heard, it's kind of modeled after the Vaughan Library. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the inspirations for it, and in discussion with staff as well, they discussed the idea of a preference for a two-story library. Okay,
thank you. And with regards to the lift, which will be accessible compliant, I mean, we're going to have the lift isn't just for the library; it's for the complex. There's going to be a second story regardless, and because of accessibility issues, it's going to require a lift in it. So I have no problem in supporting a two-story library and think that, and the library staff thinks that's the way to go.
Thank you. Next, moving on to Councillor Moore.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for the presentation. I know when we spoke last, we talked about some income generating opportunities for, say, Bayfield Street, and I notice now that you've designed it differently so that there wouldn't be coffee shops or little opportunities for storefronts and that type of thing. Was that something that as a committee it was decided to forego? Just wondering.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Moore. There was a lot of shifting in the redesign to try and alleviate budgetary concerns as much as possible. So a lot of the spaces were shrunk, as I mentioned earlier. There's a 20% reduction overall in the entire building area. So to Councillor Alexander's point as well, perhaps some of the space within the multi-purpose room and or studio could be kind of repurposed with an exterior facing. There is a snack bar and refreshments internal to the building, that kind of idea where there is opportunity for that, but it wouldn't be an exterior accessible facility as of now. We could look to repurpose the location of it, move it around a little bit to have a kind of both interior and exterior servicing of those types of spaces, if that is the preference.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And obviously, it's a little bit difficult to be looking at this and try and ascertain scale because it's a full-size gymnasium, and then you got the other two rooms beside it, which would lead me to believe that maybe we could have two gyms with a partition and then have maybe a studio space broken up into two. I did want to kind of comment on the library. If there's going to be two floors there, I mean, 6,000 to 7,000 square feet is a fairly significant amount of space for the library, and that's the ground floor. So when we're talking about the second floor, we've got additional space up there too. I'm wondering if there might be some change to maybe split that second floor up a little bit more and have a couple of community meeting rooms in part of that space that would be accessible to other groups, and not necessarily form part of the library itself. The other question I have is, you've given us a dollar figure and there's nothing that would lend itself to letting us know, what kind of building are we talking about? Like, I mean, the dollar figure, does it represent a brick and mortar building with structural steel roof? Does it represent a metal building with a beautiful facade on the Bayfield Street side? Because you're providing kind of like a dollar figure per square foot, but it really doesn't give us any idea of what the construction of the building might be. And if it is brick and mortar, would there be opportunity to look at other types of building materials, say for the main structure, that beautiful on Bayfield Street, but to be quite frank, utilitarian on the inside?
Mr. Morgan? You're muted.
My apologies. Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Deputy Mayor Cabral, yes. In terms of your point about the library and the integration of some, supplemental rooms for, community meeting rooms and things like that, that refinement of space would be anticipated. So, the extra little layer of detailing to, if it's, 85% this versus 15%, the exact kind of carve outs of each of those would be refined. And I'm just going back to the presentation. The dollar figures outlined in the in our cost sheet speak specifically to two different facilities. So those are the ones where they have kind of a comparable design style. They are brick and mortar. They are of a good quality design. As I discussed earlier, the exact materiality and subsequent costs will be part of a different scope. That is something that we have been trying to provide as much detail and clarity on as possible, using what we feel are appropriate recent precedents to discuss a similar facility type in a similar jurisdiction. But the cost and timeline of those is to be refined. There will be architects and detailed cost analysis done at various phases to speak to if it is going to be timber panel, if it is going to be a metal panel, if it's going to be drywall. Like all of those types of detailed cost decisions will come at a later date.
A follow on?
Thank you, and that does help kind of provide some insight as to where the numbers are coming from. But I'm just looking at the number you've provided today, and if I assume that it's a brick and mortar, type of building, would there be opportunity down the road, as you say, through the refinement process, to look at other potential building materials be used that might be more economical for our residents, so that we can keep the costs under check?
Very much so. Those detailed analysis and the value engineering of those materials and costs and spatial configurations are definitely all on the table. So our ambition with the Community Hub Master Plan is that at a slightly higher level. So it's kind of setting the framework and the direction for that, for the future scope of work, to fill in those details, fill in those gaps, and refine the numbers, construction timelines, phasing strategies, and work on those approaches.
Before I do go to Councillor Fisher, just a comment on the area that you have there where the office space is and the cafe area. I did like in the previous diagram, I did like the communal cafe space, and I did like the idea of having the access to the outside. Having a larger cafe area also provides us an opportunity. We have had numerous user groups come to us in partnership and wanting to display our Simcoe County Federation of Agriculture, our Springwater Sports Heritage. And I see that as an opportunity to not only display our heritage, whether it's in agriculture or sport, but to have a place where people can come together kind of centrally between phase two, but also access to the outside, because this could be a place where people are coming maybe not for activity, but maybe just socialization. So I think that having more of a focus on an area for people to gather, I'm not saying get rid of all the offices, but maybe upper level or something along those lines to provide more opportunity for that. And I did say Councillor Fisher, and then I did see Councillor Alexandra.
2 points and then a quick question. First off, I do agree with sports heritage. We definitely need to address a front hall or an area where we can display this and have presence for different organizations within our community. Secondly, in terms of the second story for the library, I'm not opposed to a second story. I just wish with the plan, I thought that because it was so vague, it seemed like that was the only two-story place. I had no idea when I looked at this, and I, just like all of us counselors, we poured over it going to this meeting. There was no indication there was multiple units that were multi-story. It really looked like it was the only one. So I'm not opposed to it being. I'm just opposed to it being the only one. You know, and I want to thank Councillor Garwood for finding out the dollar figure for $91,000. You know, I don't want to belabor the subject, but for $91,000 of taxpayers' money, I'd like to be further along. That being said, my question through you to Director Radigan, just because we have a full house here tonight, if you could tell us the exact amount percentage-wise that comes from DC funding and the balance percentage-wise, because we don't have a final, that would fall on the taxpayer.
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Councillor Fisher. My understanding is based on our last DC background study, 69%, no, sorry, I apologize. 61% is development charge funded and 39% is taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I just have a question regarding the costing of it when we're looking at King Township and the town of Whitby, and it's broken down per square foot. Is it broken down per square foot of what they paid when this was built? Or is it broken down per square foot in today's dollars? Because there's going to be a big variance in there, I would assume.
Mr. Morgan?
Yes, so thank you, Mayor Coughlin, Alexander Fisher. Yeah, they were the costs that we in discussion with staff, they were the ones we received to use based on the construction costs at the time of those facilities. That was my understanding.
More, that's just fantastic news. Thank you. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And based on Councillor Fisher's question there, which leaves 39% of this amount, and we did have budget deliberations there, and we were already talking about taking on debt. Would you be able to, and this is through Mayor Coughlin to Director Radigan, be able to project if we were to borrow that money over the course at today's interest rates, what it would cost to service that debt, say over, would 25 years be reasonable?
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Deputy Mayor Cabral, we could definitely do that. I would recommend perhaps a 30-year loan, and I could plug it into Infrastructure Ontario. Their website does provide it, and I could provide you with the cost of that.
That would be great. Thank you. I think it's important for residents to know that there is a cost attached to these types of facilities, but not that they're not worth it. They certainly are. However, that's why we have to be mindful of, taxpayer dollars for the most part. Thank you.
Just keep going around. I have questions about the phase 2, Mr. Morgan. With the phase 1 and then 2 and 3, we were given the numbers of 23 and 15. What economies of scale or what costs would we see if we were to move forward with 2 and 3 at the same time? So rather than building one pad and then a second pad, would the cost difference be if we did 2 pads at the same time?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. At this time, I don't have that information to hand. I don't want to, mislead in terms of budgetary numbers what those efficiency would be. I just do not have that information.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just listening that I'm not sure where we're going to end up at the end of this meeting, and we all want this project, I believe, to move along fairly quickly, or at least let's cement some information or a design, which is taking a very long time. Would it be possible to create a subcommittee where a couple of council members then could sit and provide more direction? I feel like the only time we get direction or information is when we are at this meeting, but I would be more than willing to sit on a committee that would help move this along and be a liaison between council and staff and our consultant to facilitate this.
And thank you, Councilor Moore. And I do see that as an opportunity. However, it is my opinion that every single member at this table would want to sit at that committee, and we could not have more than 3 to do that. So I think that if there's something that people are passionate about, we can kind of divide it up like our other committees. But I know that more than 3 of us are going to want to sit on that. Councillor Fisher? I'll just have 3.
I share the same sentiments as Councillor Moore. I'd like to see this move into the next phase quickly. I believe that if we let this linger, the costs will go up, as it has with other projects that we've dealt with recently. I also think if we can be involved as a council, whether it's a committee of 3 or as a council, we can I won't say GC the project, but I think we should be more aware of exactly what's going on in terms of exteriors, what's that costing us, what the layout is costing us. I worry for the taxpayer if we as staff and council are not on top of this. It will be well over $100 million, and most of that will be 39% of it will be debt financed, right? So that's a big burden, whether it's 20 or 30 years, it really doesn't matter. It's a big burden. So I'd like to see this move ahead quickly.
Deputy Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through you, comment more than anything else is I think part of the issue is that we really just have kind of like a generic overview. I would really appreciate in the short term, and it doesn't have to be a full presentation with the consultants regarding this, but the consultants had an opportunity to hear some of the comments from council today, and maybe they can present a few different options or layouts per se. Nothing too extravagant, fairly simple, that could illustrate some of the things that we've talked about so that we can actually envision it. Like I'm looking at the aquatics and, yeah, it's blue and there's some squares in there, but it'd be nice to actually be able to visualize where the pool kind of is going to be and where the change rooms are, where the doors are kind of going to be, and have maybe a handful of options for us to look at in that fashion that we can then have a meeting collectively, put it up on the screen and say, well, maybe we should move this there and that here in order to kind of consolidate what we're kind of looking for. I think that would be easier for the consultants too, to be quite honest, but certainly be easier for me.
I think before I do go to Councillor Garwood, Mr. Morgan, at what point does the plan that you've given us tonight, and then you were talking about how it leaves you and goes on to the design build. So to what detail can we expect from your firm before we do move on?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So as the project has gone on, has evolved, and we've acknowledged and appreciated that, council are looking for more detail, the door locations and these types of things. So we're very happy to provide that information. So we will be adding more and more detail. However, we will provide essentially a schematic design for the building, but we will not be, including, structural areas and these things. So, an architectural firm will be ultimately hired, would assume so, that to go over those final, the details. So they will take the work that we have done, integrate it, refine it, and then, create an updated plan with their various expertise.
Thank you. And I do have Councillors Garwood, Thompson, and Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Director Radigan, what have we allocated in a budget for consulting on this phase of the project? Again, I consistently hear we come to this table, we provide our feedback, 6 months later, we get more information, and that's just the past year or so. When does that stop? When do we stop spending consulting dollars and start actually working towards, as various members have indicated, the fine details? So I guess my question is, what is our budget for consulting on this project to date?
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mark Coughlin. Through you to Councillor Garwood. The budget for the carry forward budget, I could definitely tell you the total budget. I may have to refer to CAO Schmidt, but we had $131,000 that was carried forward into 2023, and of that we have spent around the $40,000 mark. But those funds were contributed from an agreement, a contribution agreement done with a developer, and so as a result, those funds are not being paid for by the taxpayer at the moment. Thank you.
I did have Councillor Thompson and then Fisher.
I'm in agreement that I'd like to see this project move forward sooner than later. And I will also like any future asks of the consultant that an actual timeline be put on them and have them commit to it. And so I think to me, there's not much use in having them come back 6 months down the road and to kick it down another 6 months. I'd like to see something come back in weeks and a realistic time be placed upon it tonight for the consultant.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher?
I actually took the words right out of my mouth. I'd like to see this come back before Christmas. I think, and I don't mean any offense by it, but we saw sort of smudges of color with vague areas where things would be for this sort of amount of money. I would like to see prior to Christmas an actual, I'm not going to say architectural drawing, but a layout so we can actually start to pick and choose what we want to do, move walls around, man doors. I think we take control of the project in that sense. But I agree, this needs to come back in weeks because it certainly can be done that way. And to see it come back in 6 months and we're going to be spending over $100,000 in consulting, I don't think the taxpayer can put up with that.
I have Councillor Garwood and then Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. My comment will be quick. Adding on to what Councillor Fisher just said, I'd also like to see associated costs placed directly over top of the item on the map. I know we're getting very specific there, but does the pool cost $30 million? Does the gym facility cost $20 million? So then as discussed, we can actually sit here and go, okay, well, that's 1,000 square feet, right? I don't think that we should operate that way. So that I think would provide a bit of a structure for us moving forward when we're having these discussions, so they're not 3 hours long.
Deputy Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I like the idea of schematics being provided. I think it'll give us opportunity to at least look at what the potential floor plans might look like. I'd like to be able to pick from maybe just the one. And while I agree that there is some sense of let's get on with it, I also have to be mindful that this council has a pretty full plate this next little while. I think January might be more appropriate, and I have to be mindful of the fact that the folks that are doing the consulting also have things that happen family-wise around the holiday season. And I don't want to force them into a position where they're just going to cobble something together. No offense, this doesn't look that great anyway, but if you could bring us a schematic at the next meeting or have a couple available to us in January, that would make me happy. And I think you would be in a position, based on the comments you've heard here, to actually put something together like that for us. And again, with Councillor Garwood's comments with maybe attaching dollar figures to some of the specifics, at least the larger ones. I'd like to know what an elevator costs, to be honest with you, but that would be good to know.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that. I also, for the phase 2, when you do come back, the rendered drawings for phase 2, I was anticipating options so that this council can decide, because I am hearing from residents that they're surprised that we're building an arena with no ice. I think that the option for us to move forward and understanding that the first time I saw the fire hall come forward, it was 2 million. And when we finally finalized it, it was almost 10 million. So there's a cost to debt, but there's also a cost to inflation. So I want to make sure that we can make a decision moving forward as to what is best today and not just push things off to the future without actually knowing what we're pushing forward. So I think that there's clear direction from council tonight. Is there anything gleaning from this that we want definitely removed so that we don't see it? Or I know we had all kind of taken a look, but those are the main the main uses that we wanted to see. So to have more of a schematic come back, and I will come Bauer. So to have more of a schematic come back with what you have there, to basically, I mean, if you could do like a virtual reality where we could all just walk through it, that would be great, but I know that that's not in our budget. So just the schematic would be appreciated to come back with, but also with the phase 2, the appropriate costings for that, so that our staff is able to, our director Radigan is able to help us understand what the cost is today, what the cost would be annually to our residents, and also if we waited 7 to 10 years to move forward with those. I did see Alexander and Garwood as well.
I just wanted to add in, I thought the direction was provided last time, but we did go back and forth a lot, so maybe it wasn't. But when we had talked about the gymnasium, had we not talked about like a weight room area as well, because again, that would alleviate us from going to Barrie. So if potentially we can see that in there as well. Unless I don't think it's in here right now.
Mr. Morgan, is there a gym weight room? The last one had a track around the top of the basket or the gymnasium area. So I'm just curious, is that still being contemplated?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Yes, that is still being contemplated. So the running track above the gymnasium and the other facilities, and then on the mezzanine level, the fitness center and weight room is located up there. So just a question to you, Mayor Coughlin. In terms of the number of schematics, where we'd be looking at providing 2 or 3 different versions, because obviously, we want to make sure that we're meeting the objectives of council.
I'm going to make a suggestion that when I'm going to ask for 1, and if I hear from council otherwise, I think that ask schematic. I mean, if you could provide, like you did in this earlier one, where there was options that show us this is what it's like if there's windows on the outside. But I think if we have 3 different schematics in front of us, we're going to maybe be here for another 6 months. So if I'm going to ask for 1 schematic, but definitely to include detail. And again, I do apologize not knowing what was on the second levels, because that wasn't here. So just very detailed for us to know, so that we know exactly what we're able to offer our residents. Council, is there anything? Clerk Ainsworth has been typing away here for our actual direction. So maybe I'll turn to Clerk Ainsworth to read us what we have.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council. The motion that is before you right now is to receive the presentation. Based on the discussion, I have drafted a potential amendment for consideration. The amendment is higher level, so if council would like to see more detail, please let me know the listing of it so that I can add it directly into the motion. But as of now, it reads that the motion now before council be amended as follows: to add that the consultants be requested to provide a detailed schematic / layout for the community hub, including estimated costing per area as per council's comments, and that the options be presented, or the option, my apologies, be presented to council prior to the end of January 24.
Council, is there anything further to be added to that? And CEO Schmidt, does this provide the direction you would be looking for?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coughlin.
Yeah. And then I don't know if it would require a vote of council, but the area for the larger communal area, which we don't really see on here. So without having direction for that, it wouldn't be coming back. So the area where there would be more of a, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's lots of arenas that you go into and they have tables set up and they have their displays of heritage. Would that need to form part of the resolution? Thank you. Deputy Cabral?
I apologize. I did get an email with some numbers on it. I tried to reply to it, but I couldn't. Through you to Director Radigan, would it be appropriate if you were able to let us know what the annual payback amount would be each year?
Director Radigan?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I have the total amount, but I don't have the annual amount. That's what I've provided. I can provide you with the annual cost of it, but the overall amount of borrowing, you're looking at an equivalent amount of interest over the 30-year period of time.
Thank you.
I think too, as part of this resolution, or maybe a different one, I think it's important too, when we do get the numbers, that we have that staff be directed to provide various costing, so that we know when we are making this decision what we need to cut back on, where we're kind of sitting, so that we can expedite the meetings as we move along. So that sorry, what we were looking for is the cost of inflation, the cost of the the debt to do it today, what we're going to take on. But I think what we're looking for is, what is this actually going to cost our taxpayers in an increase in taxes? I'm going to turn to Mr. Morgan. Is there any clarification or direction that you would require from council at this time?
No, thank you, Mayor Kirkland. I believe that the direction has been clear, and if there's any clarifications required, we'll follow up with CO Schmidt to refine any criteria that we believe necessary.
Thank you. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. I've made a few changes to the proposed amendment. That the consultants be requested to provide one detailed schematic / layout of the community hub, including estimated costing per area as per council's comments, including an addition of a gathering space / common area within the facility, and that the option be presented to council prior to the end of January 24. And further, that staff also provide various cost analysis, including tax implications, debt financing information, etc.
I'm getting nods from the table. In the first sentence where it says for various areas, including phases 2 and 3. Yeah. Thank you. All right, council, I just need a mover and seconder for the amendment as read. I have councilors Fisher and Moore. And that has been read. Council, all those in favor? And the amendment has carried, and we will go back to the main motion, which was put forward. Just ask quick names to read that. Thank you.
Thank you. The main motion as amended was moved by Councillor Alexander and seconded by Councillor Moore, and would read that the presentation from Weston Consulting regarding the Community Hub Master Plan be received, and that the consultants be requested to provide one detailed schematic / layout for the Community Hub, including estimated costing per area, including phases 2 and 3, as per council's comments, including addition of a gathering space / common area within the facility, and that the option be presented to council prior to the end of January 24. And further, that staff also provide various cost analysis, including tax implications, debt financing information, etc.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just a point of clarification. In the presentation, it was 2A and 2B, not 2 and 3, just for consistency.
Thank you. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Morgan. And at this time, we will be moving up item 9.6. It's our information report. It's the report from the City of Barrie on the proposed boundary adjustment. And I will turn to CAO Schmidt for the update.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Essentially, in front of council this evening is an information report that was provided by myself to members of council, outlining some of the discussions that have happened to date with the City of Barrie, to the extent possible. Obviously, there was a meeting, a closed session meeting in late September, where Mayor Nuttall came to council and provided a presentation or a proposal for council's consideration. Since that time, Mayor Nuttall has gone to the province and provided a presentation to the Legislative Committee for Heritage, Infrastructure and Cultural Policy, indicating what City of Barrie's wants are, I assume. And so since then, shortly thereafter, members of council had a closed session meeting on November 7th to discuss the matter further. A statement was provided to the public as to the position that the township was taking at the time, and direction was also provided to staff to provide the information report that you see here tonight. So the report is set up so that council and the public can understand, hopefully in a simple fashion, what was being requested by the City of Barrie. Essentially, there's 3 specific areas that they had indicated in their proposal. One was in the area of Penetanguishene Road and Highway 93. Another area was at the top end, I guess, of Bayfield Street North. And then the other area was along County Road 90, Miller Drive area. So staff, township staff, obviously went in and reviewed these areas, determined how many properties were potentially impacted in each of these areas, what the assessed values were, as well as any property tax or annual tax revenue for council's consideration. Council also provided direction to staff to provide some detailed information about Area 2 specifically, as to how, if the township was to consider servicing that area by ourselves, what would that potentially cost? And so, through some analysis with our engineer, we determined that essentially, in order to service that area, water, wastewater, you're looking in the magnitude of just under $80 million. That said, that's broken down into two specific phases. The first phase is really to service the what we call, or what we refer to in the report as the employment lands, which is really the property between Carson Road and Snow Valley Road. That would be the first phase of servicing, and then there would be the incremental cost to move the servicing from Carson Road south to essentially the boundary with Barrie. Maybe I'll leave it at that, Mayor Coughlin. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you. I will, that's right. I need a mover and seconder to have this on the floor. I have Councillors Fisher and Garwood, that the verbal update, or sorry, the update from CO Schmidt be received. Oh, you have it there. That the report items listed herein be received. And number 9.6, City of Barrie proposed boundary adjustment. Now that it's on the floor, we can open it up for conversation. And I will turn to members of council at this time. And nobody has. Councillor Fisher?
I actually asked for this to be pulled today. I think this is maybe one of the most important things that would come before us, in my opinion, during our tenure on council, and would probably have the most lasting impacts into the future for Springwater. So I had a lot of thoughts on this. I prepared a statement, so I'm just going to read it to you if that's okay. I've approached Barrie's proposition with an open mind and a sense of pragmatism. Having an open dialogue with one's municipal neighbor in order to find mutual benefits can be good for both parties. In saying that, I can firmly say Barrie's proposition presents no benefit to us as a municipality and our citizens. We have been told that giving up land for industrial growth would see more jobs and also increase tax revenue. The unfortunate truth is that it will not be taxation or growth for Springwater. I also feel that we have no control, or will have no control, over the industrialization that is developing right beside us. Presently, our neighbors' growth is focused on wards 4 and 5 in the south of Springwater. However, all Springwater residents should be concerned about the potential domino effects it brings. Residents need to ask themselves when the erosion of Springwater will come to their personal addresses. Homeowners would see increased taxes substantially if they are suddenly Barrie residents. During election years, politicians profess their respect for agriculture and its place in our communities, but willingly explore giving up farmers' land without their consultation. As a member of the Agricultural Advisory Board, I feel that an agricultural municipality, the options of farmers and opinions should be at the forefront of our decisions. Concerns and unanswered questions regarding the ecological ramifications of building industrial factories so close to Little Lake are real. The wetlands and rivers that the lake feeds could be irreversibly damaged. The word, the word annexation has been used to describe this situation. However, it is in fact a deal that would see two willing participants, Barrie accepting thousands of our acres and Springwater forfeiting thousands of our acres. Although a few landholders may benefit financially from this agreement, it would negatively impact our citizens, agriculture, environment, and the future of Springwater as a whole. Benefiting land speculators should not be a consideration of this council. As a representative of those who elected me, I cannot morally or in good conscience entertain this deal that our neighbor is proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'll go next. So as a representative of Ward 4, I'd like to make a few points also. Springwater Township is a largely agricultural community, as we know, which we are very proud of. It is never lost on me that when we have discussions like this, we don't consider agriculture as a viable industry that also creates many jobs and its own spin-off economy, like tractors and seed and elevators, certainly not to mention food. According to Agriculture Ontario 2021, 67,400 people were employed, or a total of 0.9% of the entire workforce, a contribution of $9.2 billion to the provincial economy, or 1.2% of Ontario's total GDP. And of special note is that 46.9% of these workers are self-employed. Of course, jobs are important to me, and I'm always interested in pursuing an avenue to assist in bringing businesses and industry to Springwater Township, acknowledging it is a balance between housing, industry, farming, and commercial space, etc. Residents currently pay a considerable portion of their property taxes to the County of Simcoe as a partner with 15 other member municipalities. The county then employs very expensive and knowledgeable think tanks that look at Southern Ontario as a collective and are advised where best to invest in infrastructure and development. Through their recent employment land needs study, they've identified where exactly these lands are. And I would propose that this council direct our CAO to approach Oro Medonte as well as the county as a collaborative to investigate whether there would be an opportunity to partner or share costs with water and wastewater servicing. As well, I would propose that we as a township, and I'll address this to our council, send our own letter to the province to advise that we're not interested in a boundary adjustment with the city of Barrie. We were initially interested in cross-border servicing, but at the moment I see a one-sided arrangement that threatens the future of our township as a complete entity, and advising that we would be pursuing other avenues of job creation ourselves. Thank you.
Councillor Alexander.
Some of this may sound similar because I too have prepared something which I don't usually do, but I feel this is very, very important and I want to make sure that I get my point across and don't miss anything. So Mayor Nuttall has spoken about a partnership. Let's be clear, this is not a partnership. This is the city of Barrie wanting our land and making an offer that has no real benefit to the township of Springwater. Once we give this land away, we can never get it back. I understand the importance of industry and job creation, but we need to be thinking long-term. Springwater is going to experience unprecedented growth, and with that growth comes greater needs for services, infrastructure, and projects like the community hub. I'm not sure how we expect to pay for this growth if we give away a land that has the potential to bring in these tax dollars. If we are going to enter into a partnership, it needs to be a mutually beneficial one that has a long-term vision of how the township of Springwater can continue to grow our tax base to service our infrastructure without handing over our land. The more we continue these discussions with the city of Barrie, the more we are saying to the province that we are willing to go down this path of giving away our land. And I think it's important to be very clear about the parcels of land that Mayor Nuttall is proposing. These aren't all vacant lands. These lands include people's homes and their farms. I did not decide to run for council so I could draw lines on a map and start parceling out pieces of Springwater to the city of Barrie. This is not a partnership, and let's be clear, the term boundary adjustment is just a more palatable way of saying we are giving our land to Barrie. I do not support Mayor Nuttall's proposal, and I do not support moving forward with any type of further discussion on this matter with the city of Barrie.
And I did want to point out further to Councillor Moore's comments, Mayor Greenlaw, myself, and with CEO Schmidt, we've already asked the county for a meeting to have such discussions, to pull the county in to get their support, and have also reached out to Calander's office to ensure that Springwater's voice is also heard. So this is the initiative that we are taking those steps to move forward. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I had to write this down because there's no way I remember all the points I wanted to bring up. And usually I just shoot from the hip and I'm pretty blunt. But the discussions actually revolved around cross-border services in a couple of really very specific locations. And it was not something new since, to be quite frank, there'd been some discussions regarding this topic in the past with the city of Barrie and Springwater Township as well a number of years ago, but it had not been pursued. Cross-border servicing agreements are nothing new, and there are plenty of them throughout the province. They benefit municipalities and foster genuine, keyword here, partnerships, benefits and growth for both. Peel has servicing agreements with Toronto. York has servicing agreements with smaller municipalities. It's not a new thing. It happens all the time. The initial dialogue, unfortunately, quickly morphed into a boundary adjustment proposal, which was not suggested or envisioned by myself at the inset, given the direction to have discussion and report back to council. Billed as a partnership, however, I don't believe that's what the present boundary adjustment proposal is. It is a reach of the city of Barrie to acquire land and control by using employment and growth as its catalyst. We must understand that growth is not exclusive to Barrie, and the reality is that Springwater is growing in leaps and bounds given the Midhurst secondary plan and the tens of thousands of new residents expected to live here. A boundary adjustment is not the answer. Apologize. Boundary adjustment is not the answer, and the suggestion that the city of Barrie, in refusing to entertain a cross-border servicing agreement, uses the rationale that it must maintain absolute control over its water and wastewater infrastructure, and that this can only be achieved through a boundary adjustment, simply fails to correlate to the idea that employment is hinged on Barrie obtaining land through a boundary adjustment. Employment is hinged on jobs being created, and that can be accomplished through a partnership involving cross-border servicing. I don't know what the evil wastewater looks like. However, simply connecting to a wastewater pipe, crossing a municipal border by agreement, and then paying for that wastewater treatment as a service for a fee, if it could create employment opportunities, then why is the city Barrie only interested in doing so through a boundary adjustment wherein their interest in employment opportunities is only obtainable if these jobs fall within their boundaries and at the expense solely of Springwater residents and the future of Springwater itself? And I can't speak to Oro Medonte. I don't represent those folks. I watched the Oro Medonte Council presentation by City of Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall, and I respect what he's doing. He's doing what he thinks is right for the City of Barrie. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's right for the municipality such as ours. During the presentation, Mayor Alex Nuttall, respecting a potential manufacturer coming to Barrie, made mention of someone looking for 100,000 square feet space, and they were manufacturing, I believe, engineered buildings, and that they were looking to locate in the city of Barrie, and that he had to turn them away. As a good municipal neighbor, one would have considered a suggestion to that manufacturer that a neighboring municipality might be able to accommodate them might have been more appropriate. Employment is employment within or outside the city of Barrie. And I would move that the Township of Springwater withdraw completely from any further discussions or negotiations with the city of Barrie regarding the proposal presented by Mayor Alex Nuttall regarding a proposal of a boundary adjustment change as presented to Springwater Council. I would go further to say that I fully support Councillor Moore's comments with respect to reaching out to the county and Oro Medonte and also to the minister himself. Part of this was, in my mind, I think we did it correctly. There were reasons why there was a closed session meeting. And I think that the fact that it came out from the city of Barrie without any knowledge really from us that it was going to be presented, I think was a bit disparaging and a bit unrespectful of the residents of Springwater Township. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do see that Clerk Ainsworth is typing away here. Before I do go to Councillors Garwood and Fisher, I also would like to make sure that the direction here is clear as to whether the conversation of cross-border servicing would still exist with the city of Barrie and not boundary adjustments, because in my mind, those are two different topics. So I just want to make sure that I have direction and that it does include the previous direction was that for myself and Deputy Mayor, and I would like to see that continue. I had Councillors Thompson, Fisher, and Moore.
I would just like to state that I certainly am not in favor of the proposal presented by Mayor Nuttall in the city of Barrie. I was disappointed that he went public with it without further consultation, although I think it's important to stay at the table. I have confidence in staff. I have confidence in our mayor. Unfortunately, this may occur regardless of what we think, and I think it's important to stay on the inside and to keep abreast of what's going on.
Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Before I jump in, I just wanted to say thank you to all the folks out here in the gallery. It's nice to see a lot of new faces that I personally have not met. In doing some research, and I don't have a prepared statement, but I liked all of yours. I wish I did. When looking through this proposal, the 52 properties in study area number 1, the 11 properties in study area number 2, and the 23 properties in study area number 3, which equals close to $200,000 of tax levy each year, I'm in belief that we need to stand aligned and committed to making the right decision that protects all of Springwater's residents. We need to ensure that we have control over this conversation, and therefore I will not be supporting the discussions with the city of Barrie moving forward.
Councillor Fisher?
2 points. I don't believe, like many others, we should stay at the table. I actually believe that that the City of Barrie acted in poor faith. They brought us to the table to speak about cross-border servicing and very, very quickly changed the narrative on us. So I feel no need to stay at the table with actors like that. And just to maybe disagree with the fellow councillor here, saying it may happen anyway. I believe right now the appetite for drawing new boundaries in this province with this government has probably waned. I also would say to any provincial leader willing to entertain Mr. Nuttall, I think that I'll say it may cost you an election in the future in this area if you were to go down that road. So I think everyone here tonight and anyone listening should probably watch for that and vote accordingly. That's what I have to say about that.
Thank you. I think too, when we are speaking, and I did hear everybody speak about our agricultural communities, and we know that there is immense pressure from our province to continue to grow. I think that there are opportunities in the pockets that have been identified. There's land across from the hospital that we've seen numerous proposals that have proposed, whether it's student housing or whichever it is. There was an Alzheimer's. It's a piece of property that's going to sit vacant unless there's some sort of agreement with the city of Barrie for servicing. I think that if we don't put these infill the areas that are there between Staples and the golf course is Springwater Township, again, that's not going to be developed without a cross border. It's going to stay vacant. And if we don't infill the land that should be developed, which I think those lands should be developed, they're inside. Some people think it's Barrie, even as it is. So I don't want to walk away from the table with the discussion about cross-border servicing. I think that is potentially the only way those lands are going to be serviced. I've heard loud and clear from council and residents that boundary adjustments is not something that our council or our residents want to entertain. So to me, the idea when we went in with the cross-border servicing and this morphed into boundary adjustments, I think that there's still validity in having a conversation about cross-border servicing. And I saw Councillor Alexander, Deputy.
So not that I don't agree that there's validity in the cross-border servicing discussions. I feel like that's what we went for, and he completely spun it to the boundary adjustment. So I don't trust him, to be perfectly honest. I feel like we're going into a scenario where he's trying to get something from us that we didn't come to the table for in the first place. When we get to the point of having a proposal for a piece of property that we cannot service ourselves, then maybe we have that discussion at that point, just to continue to the discussions with someone who didn't enter them in good faith. I personally don't have an interest in doing that. So that's kind of where I stand on that piece.
And I don't want to be remiss in saying that I too was disappointed, and I think I chose the word disappointed lightly by the way that the announcement came forward from Mayor Nuttall. And I do agree that when you are in a partnership, you do need to trust that the interests are aligned for all parties. I also try and be mindful that this is a partnership with the city of Barrie. As much as decisions that are made in Springwater, I do hold the seat of mayor, but the 7 of us together make those decisions. I understand strong mayors does come into effect there. So I'm mindful that this is a partnership with the city of Barrie that will if put in place, would be not Mayor Nuttall. It's not him as an individual. So while his discretion and how he has turned the conversation, I'm still mindful that there is potential opportunity. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I hate to disagree, but it was a no starter with respect to cross-border servicing. And I would also like to point out that we didn't have a wastewater plant going in on Snow Valley Road. We didn't have a wastewater plant going in at Sunnydale. And we didn't have a waste plant at Snow Valley. We put those waste plants in when development moved forward. And I would suggest to everyone in the room that down the road, that development will happen in some of those areas, possibly up in the 93-400 corridor, because actually, if you think about it, it's a transport corridor. It is a good spot for folks to build and manufacture and create jobs. And I think that could happen. I think that there's opportunity for us now that we've been put in a position where we have to think about it, to actually look at completing that and doing something there on our own or in partnership with another municipality that does want to partner with us, and maybe also involve Simcoe County, who I read a nice report that they did a number of years ago where they basically inventoried all the water and wastewater facilities in Simcoe County. I think at that point in the game, this might have been a decade or so ago, maybe that was a turning point where Simcoe County could have actually made a big difference to the municipalities that comprise Simcoe County. Unfortunately, that passed by, but that report is still there. And if anyone wants a copy of it, please email me. I'm happy to send it to you.
Thank you. And the conversation for regional water and wastewater servicing is still happening at the county level. And it's something that there seems to be, with the 22 new members, it seems to be gaining more traction than councils past. Councillor Alexander.
I just wanted to point out, and again, being mindful of what we said in close, but Oro had this in open, and the question was specifically asked to Mayor Nuttall about cross-border servicing, and he specifically said no to Oro outright. So I don't think he has any interest in it.
And thank you. And during discussions with the city of Barrie, there was a discussion about an actual bylaw that the city of Barrie has for cross-border servicing, but it's specific to residential. And I'm just going to ask CEO Schmidt if I can recall your because I do remember they were saying that there's an actual bylaw in place on cross-border servicing.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I may have to have Director Spagnuolo help me with this one. I believe back in, I want to say 2012, possibly 2011, 2012, I believe Deputy Mayor mentioned this, that there was some discussion with the city of Barrie at that time. It's my understanding that reports were provided to City of Barrie Council. I'm not aware of whether or not an actual bylaw was passed. I am aware that, in some of the discussions we had, they're not interested in cross-border servicing for residential properties. They hinted that maybe for institutional or industrial, commercial, but definitely not for residential. My understanding is because they're already at capacity with their water and wastewater systems. And so they wouldn't want to entertain any additional residential capacity within their system that's outside of their boundaries.
Thank you. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I think the issue too, when we're talking about cross-border water and wastewater, that's a nice thing to be able to have if the facilities and infrastructure already exist. That doesn't preclude a manufacturer from building their own and having an industrial area where they are on a communal wastewater system and basically a giant septic system and on a well. And there's a number of manufacturers out there that actually do that. They started on farms, got big enough to support hundreds. Linmar is a perfect example out in Eris. They're on their own and they provide everything that they need. So it's not that we can't develop these properties. It's just that it's easier to hook up to a pipe that exists. That doesn't mean that you have to.
Councillor Fisher?
I think the important thing to remember here is that it was a cross-border servicing discussion and it turned into literally thousands of acres. The mayor of Barrie has shown us his true intent. And with the Oro meeting, he also made it very clear that he wasn't interested in purely cross-border servicing. So I think it's very obvious to anyone here and all of us on council that that is not his interest. He probably has no interest in providing that. He really just wants our land and Oro's land to develop. Second point, the deputy mayor makes a very good point that there are some areas that can see development in Springwater and taxed in Springwater and under the control of Springwater. So we can dictate exactly what goes on those lands. There's no reason that we have to give them to Barrie in order for them to develop them, in order to put jobs on them, homes on them, and tax them eventually. So the idea that we can't do any of this and only Barrie can, I think is false. So I'd like to see this die tonight. I don't want to see any movement in any conversation with them, my opinion.
Thank you. And for clarification, I have heard at the table that conversations with specifically Oro Medonte in the county of Simcoe, so cross-border specific with the city of Barrie. So I'm still have directions from council to continue with Oro Medonte, or are you just, sorry, Councillor Moore's waving.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I think that we do continue conversations with the county and with Oro Medonte and explore what the options are with just the three of us. And like I said previously, please, that council send a letter to the province and say that that is our intent, that we are not interested in a boundary adjustment with the city of Barrie, and that our intention is to just meet with the three of us and see what we can come up with together.
Which with Oro Medonte and Ward Clark. Oh, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. If I may, in addition to what's being proposed, understanding that there is an information report on the agenda tonight for Roma delegations, something that council may also want to consider delegating to the province as it relates to this matter. Just throw that out there.
Thank you. I'm just going to return to CEO Schmidt. Or just do a general delegation. That way we can talk about boundary adjustments, City of Barrie, and or just say this issue, because then it's everything within the issue. Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. I'll have Clerk Ainsworth read a motion, please.
Thank you through the mayor to council, based on the discussion, what I've drafted so far, that the motion now before council be amended as follows. That council hereby terminate discussions between the city of Barrie regarding the city's proposal for boundary adjustments, and that council direct that the mayor, deputy mayor, and CAO pursue discussions with the county of Simcoe and township of Oro Medonte regarding potential cross-border servicing partnerships, and further that a letter be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing advising of the township of Springwater's termination of discussions with the city of Barrie and that staff be directed to submit a delegation request for the Roma conference regarding this item.
And a letter. There was also a letter to the ministry. Oh, you had that? Okay. All right, and I do, oh, sorry,
Can we send a letter to City of Barrie?
just your microphone, please. Thank you.
Just wondering if it might be appropriate to send a letter to the City of Barrie.
I would really like to just make a phone call right after this meeting.
Thanks. I'm sure that they're aware.
Sorry, Councilor, did you have your hand up? No. Oh. Any further discussion, Council? And I'll have you, you've already read it. And I do believe there was a recorded vote, Helen. Thank you. Oh, I need a mover and seconder first. I have Councilor Garwood and Deputy Cabral. And this is on the amendment. Sorry, and do we want the recorded vote just on the main motion? Or this is just the amendment? I don't want to, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Fisher. So this is the amendment, just to have this attached to the main motion, and there will be a recorded vote on the main motion. So all in favor of the amendment? This is the amendment. Thank you. Thank you. That has carried, and we will go back to the main motion as amended. And Clerk Ainsworth, if I could have you just read it one more time.
Thank you. The main motion as amended would read that the report item listed herein be received as information. City of Barrie proposed boundary adjustment, and that council hereby terminate discussions between the City of Barrie regarding the city's proposal for boundary adjustments, and they be so advised, and that council direct that the mayor, deputy mayor, and CAO pursue discussions with the county of Simcoe and township of Oro-Medonte regarding potential cross-border servicing partnerships. And further, that a letter be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing advising of the township of Springwater's termination of discussions with the City of Barrie, and that staff be directed to submit a delegation request for the Roma conference regarding this item.
Deputy Cabral?
Yes, through you, Mayor Coughlin. I got the sense from the members of council, certainly myself in particular, that the piece about terminating the border boundary adjustment with the City of Barrie should also include the wording with respect to cross-border servicing. And that was missing from the motion.
No. So council, this would, yes, terminate discussions between the City of Barrie and cross-border servicing. Right. Sorry, and council, again, it's that's the way. So there is a friendly amendment being proposed here by Deputy Cabral, that it's not only the regarding the boundary adjustments with the City of Barrie. There is been asked for a friendly amendment that any cross-border servicing with the City of Barrie, which again then would be if the reason I'm having a hard time with it is if there is someone that comes forward with a proposal whereby they have negotiated with the City of Barrie, would this prevent us, or is this just me no longer taking the initiative? Because I don't want to prevent opportunities whereby if somebody owns a piece of property and they're going to expand or build, I don't want to prevent them from having cross-border with city.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I hear what you're saying. I think if a private entity is successful in arranging cross-border servicing with the City of Barrie, that they be permitted to do so. However, I would point out that we actually have cross-border servicing with a number of residents in Hillsdale who live in Oro-Medonte for water services. And I don't know whether or not that specifically came before council or whether that was something that, just something we did for the folks who lived there. So those were private individuals who approached Springwater and said, can we get water? And we said yes.
And thank you. I just wanted clarification that the direction here was just for the existing negotiations to be terminated. All right, Councilor Thompson.
So just so clear that I have the understanding of what I'm voting on. So if the Remington Group goes to the City of Barrie and comes to some kind of agreement on cross-border shopping, or
Not Buffalo.
yeah, it's been a long day. cross-border servicing at the north end of Bayfield Street, that's okay.
Yeah.
We just can't be involved in it.
I'm fine. That I am comfortable with it, as long as it doesn't prevent that from happening. And Clerk Ainsworth, in your opinion, can you read that, please?
Thank you through the mayor to council. My interpretation of this, as it says that council hereby terminate discussions, that is current discussions, that does not prevent a proposal from coming forward in the future for council to deliberate and make a decision on.
Thank you very much. And a recorded vote was called. I'll leave that to Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. As a reminder, this is the main motion as amended. Would anybody like it reread? The motion would read that the report item listed herein be received as information, City of Barrie proposed boundary adjustment. And that council hereby terminate discussions between the City of Barrie regarding the city's proposal for boundary adjustments and cross-border servicing, and they be so advised, and that council direct that the mayor, deputy mayor, and CAO pursue discussions with the county of Simcoe and township of Oro-Medonte regarding potential cross-border servicing partnerships. And further, that a letter be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing advising of the township of Springwater's termination of discussions with the City of Barrie, and that staff be directed to submit a delegation request for the Roma conference regarding this item. I will now conduct the recorded vote. When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Garwood.
Yes.
Councillor Alexander.
Yes.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Fisher.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cabral.
Yes.
And Mayor Coughlin.
Yes,
That motion is carried.
thank you. Council at this time, we'll take a quick break. All right. Thank you very much, council staff and those who decided to stick around. Thank you very much. We are now moving on to item 8, our action reports. May I have a mover and seconder to get the action reports on the floor? Deputy Cabral and Councillor Garwood. That the action reports listed 8.2 through 8.5 be received and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 8.2, the Elmville Groundwater Project, application to the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. 8.3, award of RFP 2023-44 iOS Elmville CCTV sanitary sewer inspection and data collection. 8.4, SU 2011-01 285622 Ontario Limited, 1443 Pools Road, extension of draft plan approval, and 8.5 shipping containers zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2023015. Council, are there any questions or discussions on this motion or any items to be pulled separately? Councillor Garwood.
Pull 8.2, please.
Council, anything further for items 8.3 through 8.5? And not seeing anything, we are approving with the exception of 8.2, although,
I'm sorry, I just had to review this to make
Yeah.
sure I was on the right page. Can we pull out,
just your microphone, please. Thank you.
sorry, could we please pull out, the draft plan approval extension?
The
Um,
8.4,
yes.
and is this for comment or for redirection?
Could be for both.
Okay, would you like to proceed with the comment and then we can pull it if needed? We'll just pull it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If
Great.
you'd like, and then get a sense from staff.
Okay,
Um,
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you very much, Mayor Coughlin, and through you, the comment here is the length of time. I know that some of these we've been kind of keeping an eye on the length of time to kind of put them under a bit of heat to get moving along. I just wanted to know through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Director Spagnol. It seems to me that the 3-year and longer ones, we've been kind of, pushing them back to 2. I just want to know where we should stand on this one.
Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through to Deputy Mayor Cabral. Staff are really in council's hands. The original approval, I believe, was for 5 years. There are some considerable engineering design details that the developer has to work through for this particular subdivision. So staff had brought forward the recommendation as is for a 3-year extension, just given the amount of engineering work that has to go into this proposal. But again, we're in your hands.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Director Spagnol once again. In your opinion, is this a reasonable request for the 3 years, given the circumstances that they find themselves in under the engineering constraints that you're speaking of?
Director, thank you. Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through to Deputy Mayor Cabral. I would say so. There's some stormwater management matters that have to be sorted out. Essentially, the stormwater would be directed from the lands to the northeast down the ravine towards this property. So there's some pretty daunting stormwater management considerations that have to be overcome and designed for. So I would say it's appropriate in this case.
Thank you. And as a follow-on, Director Spagnol, when council receives the request for extensions, are these typically at the amount of time? Is it typically at the request of the developer, or is it at the discretion of the planning staff?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. They're usually at the request of the developer. But as I said, council does have the ability to refine these requests and provide the extension, the duration of the extension to whatever it feels is appropriate. But it does come from the developer.
Thank you for that clarification. Deputy Cabral, are you satisfied with the?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. At this time, we are approving 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. We will now return to 8.2. I would need a mover and seconder for that, please. I have Councillor Garwood and Deputy Cabral for the Elmville Groundwater Project grant application. I will turn it over to Councillor Garwood. Oh, my apologies, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So this is a project that Councillor Garwood and myself have been working on for a few months. The Elmville Groundwater Project is a group of world-renowned scientists that are applying for a federal grant of $5,000 or $5 million over a 5-year period of time, that with the intent of finding out why our water here is so pristine and doing research on the soils and the filtration systems. They're very confident that over this period of time that they'll be able to come to some very definite conclusions. I'm kind of passionate about this myself, as I'd like to do what I can. It was part of my campaign that to keep our water clean and to do what we can. I think this fits with that. Their ask for the letter of intent is they're looking for certainly our support, Springwater Township. The name of Springwater is in our name, and they're looking for an in-kind donation of just time. So both Councillor and Garwood and myself are very confident that we can meet this in-kind donation ourselves. So there's going to be no financial commitment from the township or from staff or from anyone else here. Should anyone else like to join us, you'd be more than welcome in this. And I wholeheartedly support showing our support for the Elmvale Groundwater project.
Thank you. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Councillor Thompson, for your overview there. I won't reiterate exactly what Councillor Thompson had mentioned, but before we do dive in, I've sent a video clip over to Clerk Ainsworth. The video clip was on a recent TVO original documentary called The World's Oldest Water, and this was done by the Water Brothers that actually featured Dr. Shoddick and Dr. Powell from the Elmvale Groundwater Observatory. So we'll put that up on the screen. It's just about a minute and a half or so, and then I'll conclude from there.
That's fantastic. I was going to ask if we were viewing the entire thing. So thank you.
It's 30 minutes long.
I watched it. It's really great. It is really great. Thank you. Clerk Ainsworth. All right. While I'm thinking about it before we push play, CAO Schmidt, is there an opportunity to have this shared via our social channels? Would our township website be able to push this out, or is that something, because it's another, I know is it akin to promoting a business? I'm just curious.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, I can speak with Officer Odette. We don't typically create posts for a third party. We would typically share. So if there is a post out there that we can find, we can likely share it. If it's the creation of a new one, I would suggest that wouldn't be appropriate for the township.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Ainsworth. Councillor Garwood.
Just while we're waiting there, just to stem off of what CAO Schmidt had mentioned in regards to sharing a third-party post. Seeing as it is my understanding that TVO falls under the federal new regulations in regards to sharing certain media outlets on Meta devices, so Facebook, Instagram, I could not find the video posted on any social channels, and if you try to, it doesn't allow you to. So unfortunately, I don't believe it would be able to be shared on our social channels in that aspect.
Maybe we can further the conversation. We're just going to send this back to Deputy Clerk Marshall to see if it's able to play from hers, as Clerk Ainsworth's computer seems to be hooked up to far too many things. Further discussion on this before we do watch the video. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I was going to wrap after the video, and if the video doesn't work, then that's okay. I think most folks here know a bit about it. Councillor Thompson and I have been talking about it for a while. I know yourself and the deputy mayor last term have also spoken about this initiative. So long story short, again, this is something that Councillor Thompson and I have been really passionate about, working with Dr. Powell and Dr. Shoddick in regards to this NSERC grant. Most actually of the surrounding municipalities have signed on to this with a letter of intent. Many of the Indigenous communities as well have also signed on. And after multiple visits this summer with both MP Shipley, MPP Downey, and members of council here, Councillor Thompson and I did want to bring this forward and wholeheartedly support it, seeing as the research is being done primarily within this municipality. We are one of the last to sign on to the project, so it would be something that would be ideal to move forward, as I know it's been something in the works for some time now. And Councillor Thompson can show the nice little bottle that he brought tonight, which are pretty neat. These are a bottle that the Elmvale Foundation, which is again part of Dr. Shoddick and Dr. Powell's initiatives forward. We've purchased a few of those to support their initiatives as well.
Deputy Clerk, are you available to? Oh, look at you! Fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Clerk Marshall.
Of groundwater resources will be one of the defining global issues of the 21st century. And here in Ontario, it's a major concern for a team of scientists who have made a remarkable discovery beneath the town of Elmvale: the cleanest water on Earth.
50 years ago, I'd asked my dad, I was in the 8th grade, to buy a farm. So he looked in the newspaper, farm for sale with stream. We came to look at it, and we came to this property. The farmer who was selling the property took us over to that artesian flow, and he opened up a valve, and the water came gushing out, and there was an old enamel cup, and he started drinking the water. And he said, this water runs all the time. It's from deep underground, it's ice cold, you can drink it. And I was in the 8th grade, a kid from Toronto, wondering, how does all that work? You have water running all the time above the ground, and it's so clean that you can drink it. I thought that was fascinating. Once I finished my PhD and I moved off to Europe, I set up my first laboratory. I thought, let's see what's in the water. And I was just shocked how clean that water was. And so I was testing many kinds of water in Europe, but this water from the farm became my reference water. I would always analyze the water at the farm to calibrate my instruments to make sure everything is working properly. So we decided to design and install dedicated groundwater sampling wells to test the water. But the more effort that we made to sample the water properly, the cleaner the water became. And once we had clean wells, clean bottles, and clean air, we could measure what was really in that water. And I was shocked to find that there's less lead in this groundwater gushing out of the ground than there is in ancient Arctic ice.
Okay, Bill, you've got...
Thank you, Deputy Clerk Marshall. I'll turn back to Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I appreciate that. So again, that's just a minute and a half clip or so of this documentary. I will follow this meeting tonight and send it out to all of council should you wish to take a peek. It is about 30 minutes in length. It doesn't just cover the Elmvale community, but from about 12 minutes forward, it's primarily focused around the groundwater project that Dr. Shoddick and Dr. Powell are working towards and the initiatives within the Elmvale community. So I do urge council to support the NSERC application and hope that Springwater signs on to it. And thank you.
Thank you. So I do have this moved by Councillor Garwood, seconded by Deputy Corral, and that would be that that report from the senior project engineer titled Elmvale Groundwater Project Grant Application to the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council dated November 15th, 2023 be received, and that the township supports the Elmvale Groundwater Project NSERC grant application is outlined in the draft letter of intent, LOI, and that the staff collaborate with the project team if the grant application is successful through an in-kind resources as only outlined in the draft LOI, and that the mayor be authorized to execute the draft. Anything further? All those in favor? And that has carried. We are now moving on to our information reports. May I have a mover and seconder for the information reports? I have Councilors Fisher and Deputy Cabral that the report items listed herein be received as information. 1, the ministerial delegations for the Roma conference. 2, the batting tunnel at the Hillsdale Diamond. 3, the property assessment update. 4, update on capital projects. And 5, building services monthly activity report, as we did deal with number 6 at the beginning of the meeting. Councilor, are there any of these to be pulled for consideration? Councilor Fisher?
Pull number.
Your microphone, and that was number 1.
I'd like to pull number 1.
Thank you. Councilor Alexander?
Number 2.
Three, 4, 5. At this time, we'll move forward with items 3, 4, and 5. All those in favor? And that has carried. We'll move back now to item number 1, which I don't have. At this time, I need a mover and seconder to have the ministerial delegations on the floor. I have Councilor Fisher and Moore, and I will turn to Councilor Fisher.
Through you to Councilor Garwood, I just wanted to, I read through it, just want a synopsis of what you were hoping to achieve by bringing this forward to Roma, if you could speak a little bit more to it.
Councilor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through yourself to Councillor Fisher and the rest of council. Absolutely. This is actually a joint venture between the mayor and myself. The idea here would be to highlight not only the scenario that's currently occurring in Springwater right now in regards to the Sarah Vista long-term care home redevelopment, but also across the province. I've actually heard various stories of other communities in similar situations where these companies are looking to redevelop. They're on a timeline because the province has set out a requirement for license renewal. So i.e. a redevelopment changes, the current facility might not meet the expectations that the province outlines when it comes to long-term care. When the mayor and myself and CEO Schmidt and staff did have a discussion some time ago with Revera in regards to their pause in the project. And that was primarily focused based upon, again, construction costs and the cost of inflation and the cost of doing business right now in Ontario. There was concern in regards to, there has been concern in regards to the project's future within the community. But at the same time, Revera continues to work towards meeting various different conditions that is required. And I know Director Spagno could potentially speak to that piece of it as well. But the idea here would be that if the Ministry of Long-Term Care is putting so much emphasis on our long-term care homes in our province, the province also needs to be flexible in regards to these timelines and these conditions that are being set out. So the idea would be to advocate at a high level, not just for our community, but for long-term care homes in general that are feeling this pressure, but also at the same time understanding that the Sarah Vista long-term care home is our only long-term care home in this municipality and is also a large job creator, not only for my ward, but all of our wards.
Okay. Councilor Fisher.
So through you to Councillor Garwood, I guess what I'm looking for, or what I'd like an explanation of, Revera is a large company. When I say large, it's massive. Actually, I did a bit of research. It's owned by a pension fund, and they have literally billions with a B under management. So are we advocating for them sort of financially to help them out? Because if so, I think they actually have more power than than a lot of people with that money. So maybe just a bit of clarification on that front, if you don't mind.
Councilor Garwood.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Colgan, through yourself to Councillor Fisher and the rest of council. And I also might defer a bit to Clerk Ainsworth. I know this was just intended to be a very basic overview. We haven't actually got into preparing this delegation, understanding it was coming forward to council. But again, the idea here would not be to advocate necessarily for Revera specifically. Obviously, this is the scenario that we're in right now as they are our partner with this long-term care home, but it's to advocate to the ministry in regards to the conditions that they're setting. If the conditions on various different homes, long-term care homes, is that you have to redevelop or meet a certain expectation by 2025. But again, sure, Revera might be a large corporation, but there's also some long-term care homes that are not. I don't know Rivera's bottom line. I did not get into that with them during the discussion, nor can I force them to move forward on this project. But all I know is that if this project stops, then there's no long-term care home in Springwater. So the idea here, again, would not be to put the lens of supporting Rivera in that sense. Of course, they're our partner with this facility, but at the same time to bring awareness to the issue, have that conversation. I've also mentioned this to MPP Downey. I've also shared those concerns, and hopefully the ministry can take a look at their policies moving forward and ensure that they're creating an environment where they're partnering with municipalities and they're partnering with these long-term care homes and not creating barriers for them to redevelop. So do I have the answers for you, Councillor Fisher? I do not, because we haven't done the delegation yet. Do I think it is a great opportunity for us to bring this forward, show our partners at Sarah Vista, show our residents, show the residents that live in that facility that we are advocating for this redevelopment? Absolutely, I do.
Councillor Alexander.
Thank you for the explanation. And it's not that I don't disagree. The Sarah Vista is an amazing facility. My kids used to go across the street to do stuff through Huroney School. It's a great thing, and I don't like the fact that it is stalled. And I understand the concerns and your motivation for the motion or the delegation. My concern is Rivera is a very large nursing company, long-term care facility. Long-term care facilities through COVID, private ones certainly got a very bad name. And the reason, and I'm not saying this in this specific instance, but the reason the province set in and put in a lot of these guidelines is because of the state so many of these facilities were in that were just let to be run by corporations. And I want to make sure that by doing this, we're not seen as lobbying for any type of private business, and certainly not a potential long-term care facility company that is huge. And has very deep pockets and often does not make the right choices if not given a bit of guidelines from the provincial government.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I guess I drew a line down the center here, and I certainly understand where Councillor Garwood's coming from, but the folks that are in those seniors locations, especially with Rivera, they don't necessarily even come from Springwater Township. No, I get that. It doesn't matter.
Councillor Garwood.
The difficulty I have is we have government run, operated and built facilities as well that either they're moving ahead under the same guidelines or they're not. The problem I have is Rivera entered into an agreement with the provincial government. And if now they're running into cost overruns and things like that, what they're really doing is looking at the bottom line. So I have to ask myself at that point in time, similar to Councillor Alexander, whether or not it's appropriate for us, even though it's a good cause. I mean, if there was a private medical clinic that was looking to make money, it would still be a private for-profit medical clinic going forward. And that's the differentiation I have to make here is if it was a government-run one that was being built there, and they were running into issues, that would be a provincial government issue. Now we have a private entity, Rivera, with, well, billions. Anyway, they're the ones who want to be in this business. And I just am fearful that, lack of a better term, setting kind of like a bad precedent to actually go before a minister and say, we would like you to, I don't know how you change it. Like, can you make them have less money or put in inferior quality products in order to move their project ahead? They're the ones that came to us, Councillor Garwood. That's my concern. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I do have a concern about the optics of this.
And thank you. And I think just as I'm listening to everybody and their concerns before I do go to Councillor Fisher, I think there is an opportunity. I think we have a phenomenal resource in GM Sinclair at the county. And I think that an opportunity for Councillor Garwood to sit down with GM Sinclair and talk about the partnerships and the needs for this. And I'm sure she would be willing to help ensure that a delegation moving forward can alleviate your concerns and that you're advocating for your community, but still have it in a way that it doesn't look like it's supporting one individual business. So Councillor Gainsworth, sorry, I did say Councillor Fisher.
I'll make it brief. I just worry this. I think the motivation's in the right place, but I do believe that this becomes dangerously close to what I would, frankly, the textbook definition of lobbying. Rivera is a very well-heeled company. If refurbishing the facility is what's holding them back, they have the funds to do it. So, I believe it's well placed, but I think if we step back from this, what if the local dealership's not doing well? Do we lobby the government on behalf of General Motors? What if McDonald's is suddenly not doing well? Do we go to the federal provincial government to help them out with something there? So I think we need to step back, and our role as councillors, yes, as much as it is to advocate for things in our community, I think we also have to know that Rivera is making a choice, and it has to do with their bottom line and their business decisions, but it's their business. It's not up to us as councillors to lobby for them. So.
And thinking before I go to Councillor Thompson, I can sit here and think of numerous times that this council has made decisions that are supportive of local businesses. I can think of Elmville Home Hardware. We advocated to the province. We advocated heavily to ensure that their expansion would move forward, and this council fully supported that. I think that if we can ensure that the word Rivera is not in the delegation and it just speaks to private at the same time, I'm actually quite surprised by the concern for this, and I'm not suggesting that the concerns aren't valid. I would invite those who haven't had a delegation to a minister to join us. It is 15 minutes. It is fast. It typically is things that are hot topics are picked up, and then sometimes you delegate the same thing. I've been delegating for accessible ice for 9 years, and it just seems to get tossed around to minister. So it depends on what the topics are. I have confidence that Councillor Garwood will be able to delegate in a way that would not jeopardize this council or the intent of this council. And also, when the delegations do come forward, the packages are delivered to council for review. I had Councillor Thompson and Moore, Thompson and Moore.
I see this as just a relationship building opportunity with the province on an area that's vitally important to our community. And again, I reiterate Mayor Coughlin's invitation. Councillor Fisher, if you have concerns, join us in the delegation, and you'll be able to see and direct some of that conversation.
I have Councillor Moore, and then I do have Garwood, but I'll go to CEO Schmidt after.
I'm just not going to belabor this. This is the world that I work in, and I will not support this delegation.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just listening to the discussion, for council's consideration, province is obviously pushing housing in Ontario, and this is a form of housing. So if you framed it in that perspective, maybe, whereby you go to the province and again, this is a form of housing for certain individuals, or that may be a way to be able to delegate to the province and to possibly seek additional funding opportunities for this type of housing. Just put it out there for council's consideration.
Councillor Garwood, and then I will call the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm not going to lie. I'm absolutely 100% shocked. I think this is, to me, the most shocking thing that I have seen at this table this entire term. I do have a phone, and if you had concerns, you could have called, and I would have been happy to have this conversation. While I understand that's not your responsibility, I think it's the appropriate thing to do, especially given the topic. Nowhere in here does it say Rivera. Also, I'm pretty sure the long-term care home is not the local dealership or McDonald's. And regardless of where the residents have come from, they are now residents of Springwater because they live in the ward that we both represent. So regardless of where they come from, just like folks are moving into Midhurst, they didn't maybe live here before, but now they do. They are Springwater residents. It is no different. So to be honest with you, this is coming out of absolute left field. I thought adding this on here would be something that 7 people would absolutely be excited about to support. If there's concern around how the delegation is presented, let's work on it together. if you want to be there, I'd love 7 of us to be there. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'd love for that to happen. I personally have never delegated, so I can't speak to the experience, but I thought that advocating for our only long-term care home in this municipality was something that we would all want to support. And I'm extremely disappointed that that's not the conversation around this table.
Yeah, and I did actually say I would have Councillor Garwood and then call the vote.
I would like to propose an amendment.
An amendment. All right, an amendment.
Well, yeah, actually, Mayor Coughlin, you're the one who brought it up. Maybe potentially a meeting with Jane Sinclair might actually be able to fit this into the framework. I'm not upset that it's going forward because it is seniors. The only concern is it's the private aspect of it. That's it for me. But if we can work around that, like I do agree, I support it in that respect. But because of the private thing, so would that be something that you would be comfortable with?
I have Clerk Ainsworth and I'll go to Councillor Garwood.
Thank you through the mayor to council. So just to explain a bit of the process and the timelines that the township is under. The delegation requests, so the initial requests, nothing extremely detailed at this point, do need to be submitted by end of day on Monday. The province does not give a very large turnaround time for the initial submissions. So I would need direction from council as to what the submission topic and general nature of would be as soon as possible to ensure that we are able to make that submission. Subsequently to that, the Roma conference is at the end of January. The delegation details and the fulsome package don't need to be prepared until closer to that conference date, should the province actually approve the delegation.
So the amendment you're proposing?
Can I might withdraw my amendment. However, can I just get clarification from earlier on with the cross-border shopping? Was the motion, did it include a delegation to, okay, just want to make sure about that and not let it get biased.
Are you going to Buffalo as well?
Everybody's going to Buffalo.
We're all saying cross-border shopping.
Oh,
Sorry. All right. Okay. All right, council, understanding the intent and passion of Councillor Garwood, if there needs to be something in there about working with General Manager Sinclair, I think that she's a great resource to have in collaboration with. And then I do have Councillor Garwood and I saw Councillor Fisher, but for the second time after Councillor Fisher, I know it's really difficult for back and forth to see who gets the last word, but Councillor Fisher, Councillor Garwood, would you like Councillor Fisher to go first, or you would like to go first? Thank you. Last word.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm amendable to what the deputy mayor has presented. Working with the county, I think would be a great thing to do. I would still like Springwater to lead the delegation, and I would welcome the deputy mayor to sit alongside me during the delegation.
And thank you. And it was not, my intent was not to invite GM Sinclair to the delegation, but have her comment and help on the delegation package. Councillor Fisher.
All right.
Last word.
Last word. I agree. The long-term care center being the only one in Springwater, it's a great thing. But we say we're advocating for them. I don't know what that means, right? It's very vague. And I will say again, Rivera as a company, and I know we say, oh, separate them. That's the parent company. That's the owner of the business. So you can't separate them. If it's a funding issue, right, that we're looking to or a taxation issue, I don't know what we're fixing. They have the funds to deal with it. So when we say we're advocating for them, what does that mean exactly? I'm sorry, I just can't support something I don't know what I'm voting for.
Okay. So I do have the amendment. It's like, because it was to receive it for information. So if it wasn't pulled, it would have just moved forward and we would be submitting for a delegation. Clerk Ainsworth, what direction would you be required now to move forward with it? I would like to have that with the notion of in consultation with GM Sinclair. Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through you to council. The report outlines the initial request that would be submitted to for the Roma delegations. Should council wish to see a change in what is being requested, I would request an amendment from council to ensure that the wishes of council are very well known in what they would like to see as the actual initial submission for the request. As mentioned, that is due on Monday. So as much detail as possible from council or direction to ensure that exactly council's wishes are being met with the submission of this delegation. Should council not wish to see the delegation move forward with changes, then that would be voting down this report.
Could you read what it states in it? Sorry, I don't have it in. Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you. Within the report, it states that the submission would be based as follows. So to the Ministry of Long-Term Care regarding Sarah Vista Long-Term Care Home, bring awareness to the pause of the project due to challenging economic factors such as interest rates and construction cost inflation. The township would like to request that the ministry get involved to provide support to ensure the sustainability and needed growth of Sarah Vista as well as other long-term care homes in the province.
Right. At this time, I mean, we can, I'm at the will of council. I've called the vote twice, but I hear conversation coming from Councillor Moore that she's disappointed that I'm calling the vote. So you're happy that you're calling the vote. All right. And a recorded vote has been called by Councillor Garwood. I'm calling the vote.
Thank you through the mayor to council. The motion would read that the report item listed here and be received as information. Ministerial delegations, 24 Roma conference and 24 conference listing. Recorded vote has been requested. When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Garwood.
Can I ask clarification on something?
Clerk Ainsworth? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I thought the deputy mayor provided an amendment in regards to the working alongside the county.
Thank you. There was no formal amendment. I think it was an understanding that you said that you would welcome that opportunity. So I think it was an understanding.
If I could just speak to that for a second, Mayor Coughlin. I don't want to place Councillor Garwood in a position where, you know, he's going to feel obligated. I know he's amenable to it. I think that would be a prudent thing to do because Jane Sinclair looks after the county's seniors facilities. So I think if we were to move forward, I'm pretty sure we can withdraw it if at that time Councillor Garwood gets the sense that maybe it's not a prudent move to do after a conversation with Jane Sinclair, or it can be framed in a different manner because the way I read it here, we're pushing it. That's you know, the motion. So if you'd like to include it, I think that would be a good thing. It would make it more palatable, I think, for me anyway. And then that way, when you do go, you'll have everybody's blessing or more blessing than not.
I'm going to look. The vote has been called, so I don't know if I'd have to. Thank you. There we go.
Thank you. If I may, through the mayor, should this motion be carried, staff, along with Councillor Garwood, can definitely work with the county's appropriate department to prepare the delegation package. At this point, the vote that is being taken is regarding whether the delegation will move forward or will not move forward at this point. If it does move forward, that is definitely something that we can do is work with the county.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I will continue with the vote, and once again, it is to receive the report. If it is carried, the delegation will move forward. If not, the delegation will not be submitted. Councillor Garwood.
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
No.
Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
No.
Counselor Fisher,
No.
Deputy Mayor Cabral,
Sorry, folks, I'm gonna have to say yes and give it a shot.
and Mayor Coughlin.
Yes,
That vote is, that motion is carried.
thank you. At this time, we are moving on to our verbal, no, yes. Oh, that's right, we had another one, the batting tunnel. And I will have it moved by Counselor Alexander and seconded by somebody. I can't second, thank you. Counselor Moore, it's regarding the batting tunnel at the Hillsdale Ball Diamond, and I will turn to Counselor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Manager Dean, I would like to thank Manager Dean for working with the Hillsdale Minor Ball on the costing of the proposed batting tunnel. I would also like to congratulate Hillsdale Minor Ball on raising $10,000 to go towards this project. I think we've all been involved in fundraising projects and can agree that $10,000 is quite a feat for a small organization. I feel this project is an addition of another recreational amenity with our township. Hillsdale is centrally located and their ball diamond is almost always booked to capacity. I would like to propose option 4 for a total of $23,200 to be included in the 2024 budget. And then I would like to pass it over to Clerk Ainsworth to add a further amend. I'm not sure how to move forward.
Clerk Ainsworth?
Thank you through you to council. In discussions with Counselor Alexander, I have drafted an amendment for her consideration that the motion now before council be amended as follows to add and that council hereby approve a batting tunnel at the Hillsdale Park being option 4 within the report, and that the costs associated with this project be provided through the council discretionary fund for Ward 2.
Fantastic. I have a mover and so this is an amendment. So Counselor Alexander is putting forward an amendment and the seconder for that is Counselor Moore. Oh, and there's more. Sorry. Okay.
No, just so everyone's clear on what I'm asking, because I don't know if I was super clear with that because I wasn't how to. I knew we had to, as a whole, agree on the spending of the discretionary fund as well. So it would be a 50-50 split with the 23 to that, like the cost of it would be a 50-50 split. And then I'm proposing that my discretionary fund of $4,000 goes towards that. So it's less, not towards Hillsdale's amount. Hillsdale is paying $10,000. I am putting $4,000 of my discretionary fund towards it. And then the township through our tax base would cover the rest. So that is what my proposal is, just so everyone is clear.
And Clerk Ainsworth is just adding that in there. Hillsdale Haymakers, and it was proposed by Michael Kelly. Haymakers? What did I say? Yeah, that's what they are. Yeah. They got great hats. Their logo is fantastic. Can we get free hats out of this? No, just kidding. That was a joke. Oh, I'm going to the Integrity Commissioner. This is great. Thank you. Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you. So I have changed the second paragraph that the costs associated with this project be provided through the council discretionary fund of Ward 2, $10,000 funding from the Hillsdale Haymakers, and the remainder of the funds, I believe you mentioned through taxation, or if Director Radigan or CAO Schmidt could comment further.
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. That is absolutely acceptable. We could throw it in taxation otherwise, or we could look at the tax rate stabilization as well. So it would not have a tax impact. It's a one-time capital item. So I don't see it being a bad idea to fund it through a reserve fund.
Thank you. Manager Dean, I mean, you hung out the entire night. Is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, council, we do have it before us so that the cost, I'm actually clicking with, if you can just read it as amended, please.
Thank you. The amendment would read that the motion now before council be amended as follows: to add, and that council hereby approve a batting tunnel at the Hillsdale Park being option 4 within the report, and that costs associated with this project be provided through the council discretionary fund of Ward 2. And I'm going to add in the amount of $4,000, $10,000 funding from the Hillsdale Haymakers, and the remainder of the costs through the tax rate stabilization fund.
And so this is on the amendment. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. And back to the main motion as amended. So we just need to vote on the exact same thing one more time. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. Thank you. We will now move on to our verbal reports. And at this time, I will turn to CAO Schmidt for our development update.
Thank you, Mayor Cogman, members of council. I have no new updates to provide tonight.
Thank you. And I will turn to Deputy Cabral. We have made an announcement of the county, but maybe the people who have stayed on would like to hear that. So 3.7. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you. At the county budgetary meeting, draft budget, actually, councillors did manage to bring it down. I think originally it was a little bit more than 5.
4.25.
Came in at 4.25, and now we're down to 3.7. And that's the county levy portion. So it was good. And according to the newspaper and according to Warden Basil Clark, we're looking to likely approve that at the next county meeting.
Thank you. And municipal updates. I have Councillor Thompson, and
I'd just like to report to council a library issue. We had the library board meeting last night. It came to our attention that a member of council had made a complaint about a social media post that was out there by a member of our community, and this member had said they got the information from the library. And it
Councillor Thompson, I'm going to interrupt this. I'm not sure. I would have liked to had an opportunity to speak about whether this is an appropriate time for that or not.
Okay.
I'm going to ask if you could give me the graces on this one.
Sure.
We can bring it forward at another meeting. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. On November the 4th, so just a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the 70th anniversary lunch of the Center Floss Women's Institute in Elmville. MP Shipley was also there. We had a great lunch, connected with a lot of residents, some new faces, and some folks that we recognize well, and congratulate them on 70 years of success. Also on November the 4th, the Elmville Legion put on a fantastic Remembrance Day dinner where other members of council also attended. So I wanted to congratulate them as well. And just speak about a couple of Elmville CRA events that are happening on November the 25th. The Elmville CRA is running a drop-in shop, and that's going to be at the Elmville Library, where folks from 10 to 1 can drop off their children and shop locally, support our local economy, and have a few hours to themselves while making a donation to either the CRA or the food bank or not, but it's their choice. And same thing later that evening. The Elmville CRA is running a turkey bingo at the Elmville Community Hall at 7 p.m. Again, donations to the food bank and to the CRA or not, and open to all ages as well. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which was a last minute adjustment, I heard word today from Manager Dean that the trees that we brought forward for Homer Barrett Park, some of them were installed today, which weren't expected until next year. So that's exciting news because of the fantastic weather. So I know the folks that live along Shaw Street and back onto the park will be thrilled with that. And also the visitors of the park will enjoy those nice new trees. So thank you to Manager Dean and your staff for making that a priority. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I have Councillor Alexander and then Deputy Cabral.
Just further to Councillor Garwood's, it's been a long night. Mention of the Elmville Legion, wonderful dinner, Remembrance Day dinner put on, as well as they do such an amazing job with the Remembrance Day ceremony in Elmville. I always love it, so I'd like to say thank you to them. They do an amazing job, and to staff who helped out with that. And just another little bit of a thank you to staff. I know this is part of your job. But it was called out to me, and it's not often that residents call out to say thank you. And that was for the trimming of the trees down Floss Road floor in the ditch. One of the residents actually said that because those were trimmed back, she saw the deer in the ditch that then subsequently came out. And so she probably would have hit the deer without it. So thank you for staying on top of that.
Thank you. I had Deputy Cabral and then Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And this is actually just an observation. I do notice on the wall here, and I usually look at them when I come in, all the previous mayors. But I kind of am looking at Tony Gurgis, previous mayor, and then Don Allen, our most recent mayor.
I'm going to interrupt you
Your
before you
predecessor.
continue. Those are the past wardens of Simcoe County with the last present.
Okay, not
sitting mayor.
mayors. Ah,
So you got to be warden if you want your face up on there for a long time. So the top, the rows,
Allen was the
he's
deputy
the
warden?
the last sitting mayor. So it's all wardens of Simcoe County and the last sitting mayor.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I appreciate that because I
Would
saw.
you like me to defer that to someone else to
No,
confirm?
I saw Mr. Gurgis there and I thought, hey, there's somebody missing in between, but thank you.
I think we should put deputy wardens on that wall as well. We want to pass that. I'm just kidding. The one in there is enough. I did have Councillor Fisher.
There. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came to Springwater Park for Remembrance Day. And I also wanted to thank the Midhurst MCRA. We have a member here tonight, our chair, for providing cookies, refreshments, and things afterwards. I think the turnout was excellent. I think we estimated over 300 people. And I want to thank the two councillors here to my right for showing up as well. And, we hope everyone comes out next year. Thank you.
Fantastic. Any further municipal updates? At this time, I would like to acknowledge and thank you very much, Councillor Thompson, for bringing this to my attention. I'd like to take a moment to celebrate a recent achievement of one of our community's emerging leaders. At the age of 13, Chloe Hessenberg has earned the esteemed privilege of the legislative page at the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, located at Queen's Park. Chloe successfully navigated a competitive application process in which submitting an essay highlighted her personal accomplishments. Out of over 1,000 applications, Chloe stood out, earning this prestigious appointment. In her role as page, Chloe will serve as the messenger on the floor for the legislative chamber, providing with the opportunity to interact with key parliamentary figures and gain insight to Ontario's parliamentary systems of government. Chloe's term as a page commences today and extends until December 14th. Notably, Chloe's positive demeanor and outstanding attributed to being elected or during orientation to lead being the selected page captain on the first day, setting a high standard for the entire group. Congratulations to Chloe on your well-deserved achievement. We appreciate your leadership amongst youth and commend you for representing the township of Springwater in such an outstanding manner. So thank you very much to Chloe. Yes, congratulations. And on another note, I would like to point out a community celebration for I don't know if there's a longer standing community volunteer, 80th celebration for Doug Curtin, who is over and over again. So if there's anyone that would like to come out and toast or roast Mr. Curtin and thank him for his ongoing community involvement, that is this Saturday at the Elmvale Allegiant. Yes, and I think I'm gonna do that right at the end. At this time, is there any more announcements? Okay, at this time, I will pass the chair, Deputy Cabral. All right. Notice is a motion.
Notice of motion. Can I have your, thank you.
Just ask for a second.
Shouldn't I read it out first?
No.
No? Okay. Can I have a seconder to get this on the table? Councillor Thompson. And I will turn it over to Mayor Coughlin to explain the motion.
Thank you.
There you go.
Whereas the Elmvale and District Food Bank and the Barrie Food Bank provide urgent services within the community, and whereas council understands the importance of supporting these organizations, be it therefore resolved that council hereby authorize a donation in the amount of $3,000 for the Elmvale District Food Bank and $2,000 for the Barrie District Food Bank. And further, that the donations be funded from the proceeds of the 2023 Spring Water Golf Tournament. That is my notice of motion. I have, in consultation with Deputy Cabral, would like to propose a friendly amendment where the 3,000 becomes 4,000. And that just saved us moving the chair back and forth. So it would be the motion that would be before you. While it does say 3,000 in the agenda, we would be voting on a $4,000 donation. So at this time, if there's any questions, I hand it back to
Thank
Chair
you, Mayor
Cabral.
Coghlan. Any further discussion on this? Comments regarding this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And I'll
Thank
turn
you
the chair back over to you, Mayor Coghlan.
Thank you. And thank you, Deputy Cabral, for that friendly amendment. Or yes. And is there any other notices of motion this evening? Councillor Thompson?
In lieu of what's gone with our fire hall, I would propose that staff be directed to seek legal advice pertaining to potential cost recovery regarding the fire hall project, and further that a closed session be scheduled for review of legal advice once obtained.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other notices of motion? None. Are there any comment? Not on a notice of motion.
No.
Okay.
This is, I'm just going to step back, Mayor Coghlan, with respect to the Elmville Food Bank. The point I want to make is recently the study has come out in the GTA, and we're no different than they are. Literally 1 in 10 people is seeking help from the local food bank, and I don't expect that to be any different locally. So I do thank council for moving forward with that particular motion. I thank Mayor Coghlan for bringing it forward.
Yeah, and I actually do have Miss McLean did reach out. I asked her for some background information, but because of the length of the meeting, I thought maybe I would save you some troubles. But she said that for the period of January to February of October 23 is about a 35% increase in the Elmville District Food Bank. She would also like that to acknowledge that they now have 40 volunteers, a wonderful group of people, and they actually have a waiting list for this community to step up and continue to help. So it's really encouraging to see that the more people that are in need, the more people Springwater tends to just continue to rally. So it's truly grateful to be a member of council in such a generous and dedicated community. So I will now move on to items for future consideration. And not seeing any. Before I move on to the bylaws, I would like to, oh, darn it. I would like to acknowledge Director Spagnell. Maybe I'm going to get CEO Schmidt to do this, but this is Director Spagnell's last meeting after 20 years, your last regular meeting of council. Director Spagnell, it has been an honor to get to know you and to serve with you, and thank you for everything that you have taught me. I am completely envious of Oro Medante, and I did let Councillor Glerian-Law know of that as well, but I'm very excited for this next chapter, and I'm super glad that you are still a neighbor and I continue to know where you live. But I'm Director Spagnell. You have led this municipality through the most significant changes. You have completely shaped what the future of this township will look like. I hope that you do reflect on your contribution to that, because as we continue to move forward in these next years, Springwater is not going to look the same way, but it is going to look like your vision. And I thank you very much for that, because I think it is a beautiful future, and it's because of you. So thank you, Director Spagnell. Director Spagnell?
Oh, thank you, Mayor Coghlan. I'm a poor euchre player, so I'm going to try not to follow suit, or I might end up following suit. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I think I appreciate all my time spent here in the township. I gained a great level of respect for the community, the residents, previous councils, this council, every individual that I worked with, all the residents, and I will look at my time here fondly. And I'm actually looking forward to participating and watching the community grow as a resident and contributing in a different way. So I thank all of you for everything, and I'm looking forward to my next chapter. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations, friend. May I have a mover and seconder for the approval of the bylaws, please? I have Deputy Cabral and Councillor Garwood that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. The 2023-108 amendment to noise bylaw and the 5,378 ZB 2023-015 shipping containers. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the confirmation bylaw, may I have a mover and seconder, please? I have Councillor Moore and Councillor Fisher that bylaw 2023-019 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on November 15th, 2023, listed here and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? And that is carried. And finally, I'm mover and seconder for the adjournment, please. I have Councillor Thompson and Alexander that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 9:29 p.m. to meet again in regular session on December 6th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much.